Hi everyone, welcome to Made of Things. This is a brand new podcast hosted by myself, António Maria Correia, and this is the very first episode of that podcast. So, first off, you might not know who I am, but then again, because you have internet access, you might. I've been doing interviews over here in Portugal for about 10 years now, having done roughly around 600 to 700 sit-down interviews, mostly with musicians. So sit-down interviews are more in-depth interviews as far as video goes, which is mostly what I do, and they're opposed to stand-up interviews, which became very popular after the Second World War. You might know some famous stand-up interviewers, such as Sir David Frost or Barbara Walters. They interviewed people like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and this became very popular and is now current practice. Stand-up interviews is, of course, something I don't do, so if that's your thing, I guess you'll just have to imagine. Now, if you're a native English speaker and you notice some shifts in my accent, that is because I am in fact Portuguese. My name is actually pronounced António Maria Correia, but for the purposes of this podcast, we'll go with Antonio, it's fine. So I'm keeping the podcast in English because nearly every international musician and comedian, as far as I know, does not speak Portuguese. So I figured that keeping the podcast in Portuguese would be a real hindrance in terms of speaking to these people I want to speak to. So what is Made of Things? First and foremost, it is a podcast. Only most as well, I guess. It's only a podcast. So it is an audio podcast, which is something you should really know by now. But I wanted to point out that I really want this to be a non-form podcast because forms are very old-fashioned. So to be perfectly coherent, we'll be starting off with a format, which is an interview format. So I hope you're not confused by that one. Okay, so on the first episode of the show, we have Mike Watt. He, of course, was part of the awesome Minutemen and was also part of fIREHOSE during the 80s and Ciccone Youth alongside Sonic Youth, and has been a member for a while of Iggy Pop and the Stooges, with, of course, Iggy Pop as lead singer, of course. And Mike stopped by Portugal and Lisbon to play with the Missing Men at the Lisbon club ZDB. ZDB is one of the coolest places in Portugal, and I remember him playing a terrific show with his piece of work called Hyphenated Man. Bear in mind Grizzly bear in mind that I had a couple of friends there during the interview, so sometimes you'll hear us talking to Mariana and Luís, who were also music journalists over here in Portugal, so they're not like ghosts in your head or anything. They're there. We're not just two people. We're mostly two people, but only this time I let them intervene a little bit, so we're actually sometimes four people, so I hope you can hear them well. There's a couple of things I wanted to tell you about before you listen to the actual conversation I had with Mike. The first one being that Thurston Moore and Alex of Dirty Beaches were around Lisbon a lot during that time, so they come up quite naturally during the conversation. Conversation. I can't speak. Why do I have a podcast? I don't know. And the other thing I wanted to tell you guys about is that while I was speaking to Mike, the topic of Josh Homme comes up, Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age, because Josh was on WTF with Mark Maron, which is one of the most famous podcasts there is. And Josh speaks about Mike and about fIREHOSE, and Mike actually knows Josh. And Mike is my first guest on my show. And Josh was on Mark's show speaking about Mike, who is actually on WTF this week. Mark just announced. So I'm launching my podcast with the weird sort of cosmic, I'm not going to go spiritual, but there's some sort of weird coincidence over here. So I don't know half of these people, but it's still funny to me that I'm just a guy in Portugal, and there's a sort of zeitgeist to it all, I guess. So here's my conversation with Mike, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This was an absolute pleasure for me, and I'll be there at the end of the conversation. So see you in a bit.
Óculos. Yeah, of course.
Sim, perfeito.
Ossos. Olhos. Ojos.
Olhos. Olhos.
Olhos.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you guys got the SH sound they ain't got.
Yeah, we do. I'm sorry. Let me just check, because it sounds like okay, it's fine.
Spanish don't have the SH sound that you have. The X sound.
Exactly, because Portuguese sounds like more like French
Russian
and
even.
Russian even.
I know.
I used to live
A
in
little
Rome.
Italiano. Too.
A little Italian, exactly. And in writing, it's like very similar to Spanish and to
exactly.
Italian, but then you'll hear it, and then it has no similarity.
I know.
Like
Scottish.
Like Scottish with English, exactly.
You write it down. It's like, Ray is on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy was telling me, Ray on the phone. I said, what? I said, write it down. Oh, Ray's on the phone. No, it's beautiful. Look, man, I like differences.
Sure.
The main idea is to communicate, right?
Absolutely.
But
But
if you
unless you're in Scotland, then you can.
Okay, especially some. But
It's like, is that like the most drunken place you've ever been, like in Scotland?
no,
No.
San Pedro.
Really? Not yourself. I mean, like in general.
No, we got some. We're sailor town.
okay.
And sailors like, no, what's the most borracho?
I've heard.
You know what? I think everybody takes turns.
Oh, okay.
So all the men and women were created equal as far as like, yo parai.
Okay, so it's like
Somebody told me once, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. Because no one picks where they're born.
I'm sorry, what?
No one picks where they're born.
Yeah, sure, of course.
You can maybe have some decisions. In fact, I heard that's a problem now right here. A lot of people are leaving.
Yeah.
Did you see the radio guy with the glass? I talked to him last time.
Uh-huh.
And also the man last night in Villa Real, cat
yeah.
named Mario.
Uh-huh.
He said, I was thinking about leaving, but then I said, no. I'm going to stay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mario from Villarreal, do you know?
Mario. And then,
Mario from Villarreal.
yeah. And the club's called Club Villarreal, and this fucking club's 120 years old.
Oh, shit.
The building was 500 years old. We ain't got that in Pedro.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know, and how old's this building?
No idea.
How old is the Alta Barrio, right? This is old neighborhood.
Old, very, 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 very old. It's
So-
like
Can you imagine what?
It's like
But
900 years old.
think of all the human stories. Think of the karma.
Yeah. We get that, you know. You
No, us
believe
too,
it.
dude. Us too, brother. Believe me.
But how was the
Actually,
show?
a Portuguese found my town. There was thousands of Indians living there, but he found it. They were called Tugva. They said, you know what? No, Gabrielianos. Tugva, forget that name. His name was Juan Cabrillo. We used to call him Cabrillo.
Well, yeah.
He was working for Spain, but he was a Portuguese guy. He fell and broke his leg. Infection. He died. They hid his. We don't know where he's buried. Maybe Catalina.
I've never been to the U.S. actually, but
Come to Pedro. I'll give you the tour. I did it for Alex.
that would be
Show you
amazing.
Bukowski's thing. It's across from the Navy House. Because I'm from Virginia, really.
Uh-huh.
I came there because Pedro's closer to Vietnam. My daddy was a sailor.
Yeah.
So I lived there 46 years. I came when I was 10.
Where are you living now?
Pedro.
Oh, so I mean, you came. Like, I mean, what I didn't understand then.
When I was born in Virginia.
Yeah, and stayed in Virginia for 46 years.
No.
Oh, and then I missed. For 6 years. Oh, for 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to count anymore.
So I've been in Pedro
It's like-
46 years.
Wow, like jazz hands. There you go. How was the show, man?
This was a challenge that I don't know because I was thinking a lot about Alex, the Dirty Beaches. I was thinking a lot about Lisbon.
Who's here, by the way, just for you?
But I've heard about
Being a pro, like.
no people outside. I don't know if you guys know it, but people talk about Lisbon has got a music scene. Thurston was telling me.
Yeah. We met him right here. Like he was sitting right here, like not too long ago. Like half.
I think he's going to come again, right?
He's
I
always
saw a
here
poster.
now. Yeah.
I think he's living in England.
In 2 weeks, I think.
Oh, in 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, because it's like it's the 20th anniversary of ZDB, so you know.
20th.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. There were.
Wow.
I used to play with a Portuguese musician, Gabriel.
Oh yeah.
3 Portuguese musicians actually.
Three?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Pedro Gomes,
I got another connection.
I'm sorry.
I got another connection.
It's going to be a challenge to edit, by the way, but who cares? Who cares?
You're in charge of the scissors. Okay.
I've never had a camera before.
Yeah, because we're totally DIYing it.
So I'm basically a journalist.
You know what? I think life is about taking turns.
Yeah, there you go.
This piece I played tonight, Hyphenated Man.
Yeah.
There's 30 men. They're from imagery from Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah.
9 of them are here. I saw them right before.
Oh, you already saw the Temptations of Saint Anthony then?
And the 9 of the men are there.
I was going to ask you about that.
I've seen all the men in Prado and Vienna Institute of Art, and I was here 3 times before, and I never realized that it was there. I hobbled past that place, the Museum of the Antique Old Art.
Old antique art, yeah.
Yeah,
And finally got your collection together then.
I seen all 30 men now. Yeah. The belly stab man is there, the baby cradling tree man, the thistle-headed man, the letter carrying beak man, the hill
Which is
man.
awesome, that one. Yeah.
They're all, well, it's
They're
one
all amazing.
song, right? And what I used to, I appropriated the images because I wanted to tell the story of a middle-aged punk rocker.
Why is it hyphenated then?
All these creatures are pieces of things put together.
Yeah.
That's what you do with a hyphen.
Okay.
And this is what middle age seems to be about, because your body starts breaking down, but your mind has experiences. You can't be the young man. Well, you don't have the young man's body, but he doesn't have your experiences. It seems society, a lot of the pieces about masculinity. Now, I try to use a lady's point of view. Dorothy, in that movie Wizard of Oz, because if you notice, the farmhands is the scarecrow, is the tin man, is the lion. And she's looking at, what do guys try to do to be guys? I mean, I think it's a coming of age story for her. Not love interest is probably Toto, but the dog.
Yeah.
But she's looking at men. And write the wizard, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And where I come from, if you're brave, you get a medal.
Yeah.
If you're smart, you get a diploma, huh? Tin Man, if you get a heart, he got like a clock. But what they're saying is, we're looking for validation. I think by the time you get to the middle years, it's like, fuck it. I'm running out of time. I don't care. Now, some dudes freak out.
Yeah.
They get the 20-year-old girlfriend, the convertible, or they go to work with the gun and go postal. I thought I would write a punk rock opera. And I wrote already 2 of them. I didn't even think I'd write one. First one was dealing with losing D-Boone.
Yeah.
Finally got the courage to do that. Second one was about a sickness that almost killed me.
Which was,
Second man's middle stand. I was only 42. I had a lot of work to do. I didn't want to die. So I used Dante's Commedia. The Inferno was a sickness. The Purgatory was a healing. Paradise was getting to play my bass and paddle my kayak and pedal my bicycle.
That's adorable. I mean, artistically very, very intense,
something
and
about
but
middle age about
really
going back
endearing.
to a
I
boy.
mean, more.
You get taught this, that you leave being a boy behind. Remember when you just played? No, everything's got to have it. I didn't ride a bicycle for 22 years. I got a car at 16. That's for little kids. Some cat was moving to Atlanta. He sold me a 10-speed for $5. Of course, I'm Econo. And I remember seeing it. Other dudes with bikes, they use them for clothes racks. No, I'm going to pedal it. All of a sudden, I got a new way to write songs because there's a rhythm. I ain't no jock. Took me forever. It was a slow go.
What do you think that
I learned
femininity?
to listen.
Oh, which I didn't right now.
In
But
a car, you don't listen. You got your radio, you got the motor. All of a sudden, I'm hearing the birds. Not pelicans, though. Pelicans have no song. Ineffable. I think Thurston's got a song, Ineffable. It means some truths can't be with words. But there's something about learning to listen. Look, if you remember the last part of tonight where I blew a clam, oh my God.
you mentioned them, we didn't really notice, but
Anyway, one of the last lines is, I think I learned that life's for learning. Because we think 12th grade is the last, or the college. Actually, the classroom's forever, I think. The problem with getting older is thinking you know it all and you've seen it all. The secret is everyone's got something to teach you, even the next shift, the young man coming on. It's hard to be told that, but life,
especially when you're young, like.
because you know everything, of course. You know.
And the more you the more you grow old, the older you.
Not old.
Not old.
Less young. Less young.
Well, the more like years go by, the more you realize like, oh, I don't really know anything, and who cares, really, isn't it? Like.
I care enough to hand it down to the next shift.
No, I
The
mean
next cat coming on. Like Raul's 20 years younger, right? Tom's only 5 years younger.
I mean,
Someone's
who cares
always
about like
older.
what's
Someone's
right or
always younger. They're links in the chain. And
wrong? Well, some things are right or wrong. I mean, obviously, but
I had to acknowledge that. The next to the last part, in fact, that was interesting about my piece because I tried to make it. The other two operas had beginning, middle, ends. I wanted this to be all middle. In a perfect world, I would have done all 30 parts at the same time. Would have been very short and kind of difficult to do. But I thought if I did that, I had to acknowledge that humans can be very inhumane to each other. Middle age is about reconciling a lot of things. I can't reconcile that. We should be better to each other.
yeah,
If there's anything called progress,
just to
I don't
making sure
think-
that works.
I don't think progress is better machines. That just means, more complicated or whatever. Being
showing
better
off,
means
as
being
well.
more human to each other and having more empathy and compassion. That's what I think.
You mentioned femininity. Like, do you think that makes you a better musician? Because I heard like Josh Homme talking on a podcast, like
Josh
saying like
Homme, great
Josh
guy.
Josh Homme. I thought it was Homme. Josh
No,
Homme.
it's a French word for man.
Oh, like Homme, really? Like Homme. I thought it was German, so like Homme, like or something. And well, whatever. But
He's a great cat, man. I like him a lot.
he.
One time, Ig told me, Ig saw Jamicano documentary. He said, yeah, he reminded me of that guy singing for Queens of Stone Age.
So two things. Like, first off, he mentioned like beforehand. I'll just mention that in that podcast, he said playing with fIREHOSE with Caius, I opened for fIREHOSE in the middle of the desert or something, and that like was
where he's from.
the best thing. Exactly, like that was the best thing back for me in the day. Like the first opening for fIREHOSE was like the best thing I ever did. So that made it all worth it. Like, so he mentioned you through fIREHOSE on that podcast, and then then was speaking like about his feminine side that made him go not just riffing hard and doing this sort of more sophisticated artistic endeavors in music. And I feel the same way about your music. Like, for instance, like a hyphenated man and work with basically everything you've ever done. But it's very sophisticated and very, because you're associated with hardcore, and it seems to me like it's not very obvious.
Actually, we learned punk from Hollywood in the 70s. But a lot of those people, that scene burned out, and the only one left to play we could play for was the hardcore kids. Our punk, the 70s punk, was big reaction against arena rock.
But that's not opposed like stylistically.
I didn't know about clubs till punk.
Sure.
I was way in the back, sitting in the dark. My first gig was T-Rex.
Yeah.
I liked it. But what a lame way to see music. Way in the back. It's funny because I have to do a lot of festival gigs with Ig, and Stooges. It's not the best.
I've seen the show you played like 10 years ago. So I was
Wow.
I still have that footage, I think.
I think he's a Slayer. Dave Lombardo was on drums.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. Okay, and Ronnie was the guitar man.
Yeah, Superbock, I think.
Super, that's right, the beer.
Exactly.
That was the first time I ever played Lisbon.
I still have like 15 minutes of that, so. Yeah, actually, with the Iggy going around and you playing.
Look, Ig would tell you about that too, man. There's something about getting it, not being in denial, and get in touch with the woman. Every man has a mother. Lots of them have sisters. Even some
I've heard
of
him
them
say
have
that, actually.
daughters.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. The whole thing about these kind of abstract things having so much control in our lives. What do they call it? Society. The hardcore guys always talk about society.
Yeah.
You got to rethink some of these things and just don't take them for granted, because they end up hurting a lot and keeping things unhealthy, my opinion. Yeah, Josh is very cool. He's a deep cat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the way he doesn't copy. He lets his inner voice out. It's not Xerox. It's not rubber stamp. It's not cookie cutter.
Like so each time it's different, right?
When you hear his music, you can tell it's Josh. No, look at us. We all have different thumbprints. Camera Meister, writer man, sister, you, Antonio, you all. And then we also have a lot of common ground.
Yeah,
that's the way it is. Why be in denial of any of that? Say we're all special and too individual, or that we're all too much like whatever, robots or sheep. No, deal with the reality, which is we're a mix of a different. And
sometimes you can be more original, sometimes you can't, really, isn't it?
Well, like, for example, my situation, I asked Tom and Raul to help me realize this piece. When I go with Ig, Mike, will you do this bass line for me? Yeah, okay, Ig. You take turns. We inhale, we exhale. A lot of life is duality.
And so, it might be positive because, like, you take a break, like, even creatively, like the pressure is off, like then. You know?
It's not a pressure.
There's no pressure.
No,
I mean,
because you're trying to help the guy. There's the pressure on helping him.
Oh, okay.
See, that's how it's been shaped. They think the boss is always. It's not that. There's burden on the guy helping, the guy trying to be the rudder man.
Yeah.
That's what I think. This is a philosophy thing we're talking about here. If you care, sympathy means you feel sorry. Empathy means you actually feel what you're trying to feel, what they feel. And I think that's more genuine.
I think that's
authentic.
the empathy and connecting, and it's not trite, but I don't mean to be like cliche when I say like that. Communication is really the key thing with everything. You really want to connect with people. Like,
But what's the bad side of communication? Propaganda, brainwash.
Sure. But I mean communication in the sense like personal communication.
Anything human can be like kind of twisted up.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing of the Dante thing. The actual sin is love, but it's bad love. It's like for the self, for greed, for power.
Absolutely. But I mean, like human connection, you know, like.
Yeah, but human connection could be a chain around your neck. Come on, boy.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? We gotta think about these things.
Or the human
But
centipede.
you want to put yourself in that man's shoes, right? Or it could be like Joe Stalin, right? That guy's as fucking mean as me. If I don't take him out first,
Sure.
you know what I mean? It's all the way it's finessed, the way you articulate it. And I think that's what the human journey is. Finding ways to be more humane in their expression. Which means, you know, like making a band.
Yeah.
And what did D. Boone call it? Thinking out loud.
Oh. You mentioned like the early motivation for punk bands.
Yeah.
Like I'm a prog guy myself, and you've done and an indie rock kid, but I mean.
Well,
like
music's music. It's just
yeah,
different ways. Yeah.
Exactly. But you've done like Anywhere and Banyan and stuff like that's more.
Perkins, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Nels Klein.
Yeah,
incredible.
I interviewed Jim Black like a year ago. So
Incredible. Respect.
Amazing. Like a 40-minute interview or something. But he's brilliant. But then punk, for some people, has originated as also as like arena rock at the time was prog rock. So, but I always have this point of like, and your music shows that they're not mutually exclusive. You shouldn't really
You know
like.
what my secret is to preserving that? It's not a style of music. Style of music's up to each band. Punk is a state of mind. It means you don't feel like you fit in, so you make a parallel universe. In fact, the word was so funny when I first heard it because it was, in my town, it means a guy who gets fucked in jail for cigarettes. So why would somebody call their music that? Yeah.
How did
I don't know. Don't ask me, but I saw it, and what I thought was they're just trying to make a place where it's safe to go crazy. And whatever it takes, it's not a style of music. That was some marketing guy.
Well,
That's right. Music is music.
exactly.
And to me, a prog can be punk as hell.
Yeah, it depends on the context of things, right? Like, if you like, if it's basically if it's Screw You, like it's punk. That's what it is, isn't it? Like,
It's like I'm not going to ask your permission. I have to do this. I'm not saying I'm better than you, but I have to do this. Maybe you'll come around, maybe you won't, but let me do this. Let the freak flag fly. I think that came from some hippie dudes in the 60s. Somebody once said there's nothing more dangerous than a good idea. If you find something that helps you get together with your cats and try to find your inner voice, whatever, style. You might change styles. Your voice might still be there. I don't want to narrow things down. There's already too much in our lives narrowing us down, you know? Girls in that line, boys in that line. Right? From grade school, they're telling us. So I don't want this to happen in music. We got to open it up. There's, you know about a website, The Quietest?
yeah.
Or magazines like Mojo, and when I was a boy, Cream.
This is excellent. Yeah.
Remember Cream? Yeah, it's right. It's about just music. It can be from anywhere. When I went up to Hollywood and met them punk people, they knew they were all record collectors. They were Pettibone played me first Coltrane. I thought he was playing punk. I didn't know he's dead because I come from Navy House. I didn't know anything about jazz.
Again, they played this tonight, so just for reference. Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, he was right there when he was a sailor.
Oh, really?
In the Navy, where he made his first recording.
There's a tiny badge over here with Coltrane as a teen.
Pettibone, right? Pettibone taught me about Dada, huh? There was some art scene going on during the First World War. They were doing a lot of things we were doing up in Hollywood in the 70s. Somebody once said the only thing new is you finding out about it. But we got to make the journey personal, you know? That's how it informs us. I found a lot of Woody Guthrie in this scene.
How come?
The sentiment. If I had a hammer, it's not that common song. This land's your land, this land's my land. There's some heavy shit. Well, fuck, he wrote on his guitar, this machine kills fascists. With the hillbilly strum, and like I said, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. There's a lot of trippy shit.
Do you think there's
Trippy shit. Music has been really important in my life. It's really, I met Pettibone, I met D. Boone. These guys who had an incredible effect on my life. And it wasn't just, his mom got me on bass, but I'm glad she did. What I like about bass is the politics. You look good, making the other guys look good.
It's understated, isn't it? Like sometimes.
Well, people go in the bathroom and most people look at the tile. I'm the grout. I glue the tile. I am in between the tile. It's interesting. It's still mysterious. If you're mysterious, you're still free to define yourself and not let the cliches define you. God, I wish that for my guitar brothers and sisters.
With no grout, there's no tile holding together. Like
what's glue with nothing to stick to? Just a puddle we need. Right?
And there's nothing wrong with glue on glue, then again.
Oh, interesting. Good point.
Glue on glue and glue, like.
Wow, good point.
If they're different glues, they're fine, I think.
See, that's the point of getting too much duality.
It just came to me. Dude.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But it's just the thing with your attitude towards music. As much there's a lot of talk with documented stuff. Well, documented stuff is always about history, but there's a lot of documented stuff about your past. But like you're producing very original music and very interesting music, like in recent years, and with this work
coming. It's with Nick Reinhardt, Tara Melos, Nels Klein, and Greg Sarnay of Deerhoof.
Yeah.
It's called Big Walnuts Yonder, and I wrote it all in the. I think the future bass is composition because you provide some rhythm, some melody, but you leave a lot of freedom for the cats you're playing with. I call it launch pad, springboard.
Launch pad glue.
That's right. You give them the chance to express themselves. Piano, guitar, you give them a lot of content. This way, yeah. For a lot of people, it's scary. Nels is like, bring it. But that's what I got coming up. I got a trio with two Italian guys called the Sogno di Marnaio. They've never done a big U.S. tour. We just recorded our second album, just started. Made an album, toured last year. I'm gonna bring them to U.S. 51 gigs, 51 days. Yeah, look, like I said at the end of the piece, I'm here to learn. So, where's the end game in that, right?
Exactly. I mean,
I was because my body's breaking down.
Your knees.
So, yeah, and everything. Believe me. Just thank God I got the hands, but I want an open-ended philosophy that keeps me going. Danger of being older and being around is thinking you've done it all. You got to fight that. And Watt's going to fight it.
I thought we couldn't end on a better note. So, dude, this was a pleasure. This was really amazing.
I show you my village people picture, okay?
I don't know if you want to get that on record. That's so cool.
Can I ask you one question?
Right.
If it's not too personal, who was the picture on your base?
Ron Ashby. That's
yeah.
the reason why I play
I
the
know.
Stooges. He called me, he says, Ronnie says, you're the man. I'm like, what? He said, would you do me a favor? Would you wear a t-shirt instead of a flannel? I said, what about Levi and Converse? He said, that's strong. I couldn't believe it. The Stooges was the big thing in our scene in the 70s. You gotta understand.
Changed a lot of things.
No, Southern California is 150 towns. You fly over, you think it's one, but we're balkanized. One thing we had in common.
I have never been there.
Stooges.
Oh.
So to get asked to play with them was like,
Okay, so that was my conversation with Mike Watt. He was a wonderful guy, a sweet, sweet man. And I hope you guys enjoy the following episodes. Follow me on Twitter at Made of Things Pod. Follow me on Instagram at Made of Things. Follow me on iTunes. I guess you can follow me on iTunes. I'm not still quite sure how that works though, but I do have a Facebook page, so it's Facebook Made of Things Pod as well. So see you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the next few shows and all of the shows actually. So I'll see you guys soon. And thanks for listening.